Thank you all for being here. This is the first town hall of the new fiscal year, and my objective today is just to kind of catch up on where we are and where we're headed over the coming months. Also to say thank you very much, and please pass that thank you along to your colleagues for the tremendous quality and amount of work done over the past year. I certainly know everybody is working very, very, very hard. It's a difficult time in the country. There's economic angst, there's political angst, there's a lot of fighting and squabbling over points of view, and that just adds to the feeling of challenge that we all have. There's a lot of uncertainty about the future, and that just makes things a little harder. Of course, this is not the first time our country's faced this. Some of you who are as old as I am remember the late 60s, 70s, mid-70s, when Jimmy Carter was president, and we were involved in Iran and the failed rescue mission and the poor state of the military, the significant economic recession that Ronald Reagan was dealing with, uncertainty. Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush went through similar challenges. So it's not the first time our country has faced challenges like this. I think it's important to remember that on occasion. That said, right now is a difficult time. So I understand that, and I appreciate all that everyone is doing to make us successful in spite of the uncertainty for what lies ahead for the country. Let's go through some of the things. Here are the things that I want to talk about. Let's reflect on what's happened. A lot has happened. A lot of good things have happened. When I go places now, particularly in Houston, around the state of Texas, people congratulate me and us on the revitalization of UTMB. And I think that's probably an applicable term, something for which we can be very proud. We'll talk a little bit about what's happened in some of the mission areas, some of the highlights. I think if I ask each and every one of you to name a few things that happened that were positive in the last year, you could probably name at least a handful. A lot of good things happening. Catch us up again on where we are in terms of rebuilding our campus, not only rebuilding it, but expanding it for the future, particularly with the clinical services wing and the new Jenny Seeley Hospital. Talk a little bit about some of the recognition that's come to UTMB for the great work that's occurring here. And then again, kind of look out into the future. Well, where are we headed? How do we get to where we want to go? So let's dive in. I use that word transformation. And here's just some of the things that we've accomplished in spite of the fiscal, the financial challenges, the cutback in state funding. Everybody has worked very, very, very hard to make sure that we can continue to generate financial success. For the second year in a row, we've closed the year, and we're still counting up, checking all the numbers, but it appears that our revenues exceeded expenditures in spite of the significant cutbacks in state funding and some of the other shortfalls that we had to manage. So that's very, very positive and is attributable to the great work of the people in SRM and our colleagues around the university. Despite a very challenging legislative session, we emerged and did pretty well with each of our four major priorities. I again say thank you to all of you who contacted our state representatives, our friends around the state of Texas who know people in the legislature. Certainly thank you to Dr. Raymer, Laura Smith, the staff who are in Austin, who worked very hard to make sure that the legislators and their staff members were presented with information about UTMB's agenda and supporting our positions. I think the fact that we did reasonably well in the legislative session is a great testimony to the fact that the legislature truly appreciates what we do. They see us as successful and having a big role to play to make Texas successful in the future. So that's a good place to be. And I think a change from what occurred with the legislature just a few years ago. You all know that we were successful in being officially recertified as a Level 1 trauma center. I, of course, got Regents approval for the new Jenny Seeley Hospital. By the way, a few months back, I kind of stood on the edge of the stage with my toes on my toes and said, if you don't believe this is going to happen, shut up and get out of the way. So I appreciate those of you who did that. So thank you very much. We got it done. We expanded our overall construction efforts to about $1.8 billion. That includes Ike recovery, mitigation, and new construction. And we're thinking about what else we need in the future. Again, these are challenging times. Nothing's necessarily a certainty. But we think we have the people and the programs to support expansion of the campus, which will do good things for Texas. So we're always planning for the future. Of course, we restated our mission, vision, and values to make those statements more concise, to make them more understandable, not so much by us, we understand what we do, but by people outside the institution so they could really get their arms around what UTMB is and what it does. We launched that new brand, which we continue to promote, and again, we earned widespread recognition, not only with our colleagues, but in the lay literature with people around the state and around the country. So a big year for UTMB. I think sometimes, we get lost in the day-to-day challenges with that long list of things that we have in front of us. We can only accomplish so many things on that list every day. It's important to look back and think about the things that we actually have done and think about how positive those things are. The educational areas, we graduated over 800 health professionals. Outstanding young people. We're attracting incredible applicants reflective of the population of Texas. Our faculty and our staff members in the schools have worked really hard to think about how we can expand our enrollments, offer our great programs and curricula to more students, even though there's less funding to go around on a per-student basis. We've been successful on that front. As I mentioned, we do reflect the population of Texas. We continue to be recognized around the state and around the country as a leader in education in terms of diversity, how our student bodies reflect the populations that they will serve. We have launched new degree programs, I think 4 or 5 in the School of Health Professions. Where's Dr. Protis? There she is that right? And we have a new doctoral program there. We've got a few more on the table. The nursing school has expanded the number of its degree programs, I think by 25%, from like 21 to 26, and continues to think about how it can have more offerings to appeal to a wider array of students. Again, important to the future of Texas in providing access to good health care. We've hired almost 100 new faculty across the campus. Some of those are rehires. Recruited 2 new faculty chairs in the School of Medicine, Dr. Sowers and Dr. Resto, and overall achieved a 96% faculty retention rate. That's pretty darn good. We do want to have some turnover in faculty. That's important. People come and go, and we want to send the good parts of UTMB out. Let us metastasize, if you will. We also want to keep our great faculty here, clearly the foundation for our educational and research and clinical programs. With regard to research, we continue to do well. We gathered about $125 million in this last fiscal year in terms of new funding or renewal of funding on a competitive basis. You all know, we certainly have talked about in this forum before, the fact that research dollars are harder to find. Foundations don't have as much money that they're offering now, particularly with the economic challenges that are out there. The NIH, National Science Foundation, other sources of federal funding are more limited than they have been in the past, certainly not projected to grow and shrinking on a real dollar basis. So the fact that we have been successful on this front, again, is a very, very positive development. We've gotten a number of important grants in our areas of research expertise and should continue to do well in those areas as we go forward. We have 7 of our medical school departments in the NIH top 25. Southwestern has 10. We have 7. San Antonio has 2. University of Texas, Houston has 1. So again, we're doing well on that front. We want to maintain that position and hopefully improve it over the course of time. Our School of Health Professions continues to do well with their NIH funding effort, ranked in the top 10 in the country. And in spite of all of our fiscal challenges, all the things that have happened since Ike, over the course of the past 10 years or so, we've significantly expanded the amount of square footage we have devoted to research. I think in 2001, if I remember the numbers correctly, we had a little over 400,000 square feet for research. Now we have over 500,000. And again, we're thinking about how we can grow the amount of square footage that's dedicated to our research efforts in the years ahead. And that's a good thing. Patient care, a lot of great work going on in the health system by our clinical faculty representing all of our specialties and professions. Almost 30,000 admissions in the last year, 735,000 outpatient visits. We now have 70 different sorts of clinics represented in 40 sites, most of those on the mainland. I think we have about 30 actual clinical units here on Galveston Island. We opened our multi-specialty center and Stark Diabetes Center up in the Victory Lakes Town Center August 1st. Some of you attended the ribbon cutting last week. It is a beautiful facility, incredible. People keep walking in, they tell me they walk in and go, "This is UTMB?" So that's great, Donna. Congratulations to you and Diana and others who have been involved in building out that site and making it available for patients. Radiation oncology has been restored as a service site on Galveston Island, and we have plans in development now for restoring an infusion center. So we have a fully functioning cancer center here on Galveston Island. We're working to establish radiation therapy capabilities at our Victory Lakes site up on the campus up there. We'll have that accomplished within the next fiscal year, and thinking about how we add to our cancer treatment capabilities at all sites over the coming 2 or 3 years. Finally, a number of initiatives have been launched relative to improving service to our patients, improving the working environment for our staff, making UTMB a better place to receive care and to work. A number of things are in progress. Great work occurring on that front also. And it's being recognized. Certainly patient satisfaction has come up nicely across a number of our clinical sites, and we have plans in place or efforts in place to continue to increase or improve patient satisfaction with the services that are being provided. In terms of construction, what's happening across the campus, we were able to move back into Old Red on September 13th, exactly 3 years after Hurricane Ike visited our campus. The Student Affairs Group moved back in on that date, so that really was a milestone for us. Happy to see that we can use that beautiful building again. We will be opening the first of our newly renovated John Seeley Hospital rooms this fall, I think in October. We believe that the UHC garage improvements will be completed in about mid-October. You know, that's been problematic for our patients who come to visit us here in our island clinics. Those elevators have been under repair, and we've had a few setbacks on that timeline, but we think we're going to get that done, and we know our patients and our staff will appreciate that project being completed and the new level of service with the elevators and the waiting lobby on the first floor of that garage. We will begin the abatement process for the old Jenny Seeley Hospital and the old Shriners Hospital this fall, within the next month to 6 weeks. What we do, you know, we don't swing wrecking balls anymore, and darn it, we don't get to push the plunger to blow those buildings up. What we have to do is to make sure that all the lead in the pipes is removed, any area of the building that might contain asbestos is appropriately treated and sealed as we take down or take out those elements. So basically we have to disassemble those old buildings to clear the sites. That process will start in earnest. You may have noticed that there's a big fence up around those properties now, and so we're planning on moving forward with those abatement plans within the next month or so. We do plan on having a celebration on October 19th out on the campus, out on the plaza, that will be devoted to actually the taking down, the demolition of those facilities as the first step in the construction of the new clinical services wing in Jenny Seeley Hospital. So more to come on that front, but we certainly would like for as many people as possible to attend that celebration. It will be a noontime celebration. We'll do some things to renovate or to acknowledge taking those facilities down, their previous service. and the plans for the clinical services wing in the new Jenny Seeley Hospital. It should be a fun time. I hope you'll be able to be there. And finally, we plan to open the primary care pavilion after the first of the new calendar year in early 2012. Doing that will help us put clinics back in a very accessible location so patients can park their cars on that surface lot as they did before, walk directly into that building. Most of the clinics that were in that building previously will be reconstituted there. That also provides space, additional space in the UHC building that we can use to either expand existing programs or put some programs back into that facility that were there before Hurricane Ike. So a nice series of dominoes that will allow us to improve our clinical service on the island. I mentioned recognition. Again, our faculty members, our staff members have been recognized with the Healthcare Heroes Award, the Good Samaritan Awards. I've talked about those previously. But we've also been recognized in the lay press. We've just put up some logos from some of the organizations or some of the media outlets in which we've had significant articles about UTMB over the past year. Since, I think, about November of last year to about the mid-portion of this current month, UTMB's been cited almost 2,200 times in the lay press around the country. So everything from Vogue and Cosmopolitan, which you see mentioned here on this slide, to Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. So a lot of good recognition for great work occurring here at UTMB. And again, I think that's helping us in terms of spreading the message that not only is UTMB back, but it's flourishing and has big plans for the future. So what about this transformation? This is something that, again, this work we're proud of, we should be proud of. How do we make it go? Again, these are challenging times. The funding situation is not likely to get a lot better in terms of state support or research support. There are fewer resources to go around. Our population is growing. There may be more medical schools in the state of Texas. There likely will be in the coming years. So how do we make sure that we use this current level of success as a foundation, leverage that, and become even more successful in the future? Well, we continue to talk about efficiency, effectiveness. And of course, this is not just us. Organizations like us around the country, any of those involved in education, research, patient care, all institutions of higher learning are thinking how they become more efficient and more effective. And certainly there is perhaps an unprecedented level of external scrutiny with regard to what we do and how we do it. A lot of people think they know a lot about higher education, and they're very anxious to share their thoughts about how we all do it better. So, and because we're a public institution, we have to engage in that dialogue, and we should. But clearly, bottom line is we have to continue to work to do it as effectively and as efficiently as we can. Our focus always is on our students, preparing that next generation of health professionals. It's what we do here. We do it extraordinarily well. Again, we're recognized nationally and internationally for our educational expertise, and we want to make sure that we stay focused on the leading edge of education, making sure that our students are as well prepared as they need to be, not only to function well as health professionals, but to be leaders in their specialty areas and areas of chosen expertise. Emphasizing our research expertise. There are not likely to be a great deal of new resources becoming available to support our research efforts. So that means we need to continue to focus on excellence, to think about how we expand that excellence, complement it, collaborate more effectively internally and externally to make the most of the research enterprise here, expand that knowledge, improve knowledge for the practice of healthcare in the future, improvement of health. We want to continue to expand our clinical programs. We know the population of the greater Houston area is expanding rapidly. Texas population is expanding rapidly. Some of you may have seen the presentation that we put together for the regents. If you draw a radius line 25 miles from Galveston, Galveston's the center, today there are about 250,000 people that live within that radius line. Now you think about how much of that's composed of water, it's pretty impressive. we have that many people. That number is expected to grow to well over 300,000 in the next 10 years. We can do the same thing with a 40-mile radius line, which takes us just southeast of Houston. Within that area, the population now is around 415 to 420,000, expected to be well over 500,000 within the next 10 years. So right now, we've done the math. We've looked along with a lot of other health providers at the current population of people who can provide health care in that area. It's below what it needs to be today, and that disparity grows even greater as the population grows. So clearly there's an opportunity and a need for us to expand clinical service in this area. As I've mentioned before, we want to do it collaboratively. We continue to monitor residential areas, the business areas. We look at it by zip code. We look at times to first appointment for providers. Any place there's a gap of more than 6 months to time of first or third appointment, then we think that's an opportunity. So we think about that in terms of primary care and specialty care, looking how we can fill in a gap or meet our programmatic needs up on those areas on the mainland. And we're absolutely committed to provide all levels of service on Galveston. Nothing about that has changed. Occasionally I'm still asked about that. Are you going to close your Galveston clinics? Absolutely not. This is our home. We have our employees, 7,000 plus who work here on the main campus. We need to take care of all of us, as well as the people who live close by. So we will continue to provide full service here on Galveston Island as we go forward. Finally, increasing philanthropic interest and support. Part of the effort in promoting more lay coverage of what's happening with our educational research and care programs, getting our name out there, new brand, restating our mission, vision, and values. More people are familiar with the good work that goes on here, and therefore we can perhaps attract more people, particularly foundations, organized groups that support the things that we do to provide funding in the future. In the context of diminished state funding, diminished federal funding for research, we need to do everything we can to improve awareness of the good work at UTMB and then try to leverage that awareness into additional philanthropic support in the future. Obviously, we have big plans. The new hospital, clinical services wing, I think are going to be the most visible symbols of those plans, demonstrating our success. Everybody has worked really, really, really hard to make it possible to move forward with constructing these buildings, which will provide state-of-the-art facilities for the education of our students and residents, state-of-the-art technology, areas where we can provide great patient care, and a lot of flexibility for the future, much more flexibility than we have in the existing health system buildings today, so that we can continue to modify what we do, update our technology and facilities to meet the needs of the time. So we're very excited about moving forward. We have work to do with this too. Not only does Mr. Schreiner have to coordinate all the construction activities for this, but we need to go out and raise money to help support the cost of building this building. We've set a target of about $100 million to raise in philanthropic support for the building. We're going to kick off our family campaign, ask everybody at UTMB to consider making some contribution. I know people are struggling financially, but we're hopeful to get as high a level of participation as we can. Even a small amount of money can make a difference when we pool all of our funds. What we'd like to do is to recognize all of UTMB's faculty, staff, and employees in an area of this building with a very prominent plaque that identifies the wonderful support that we've had from our own family. We'll name a portion of the building for our faculty, staff, and employees. And of course, that also sets the right example. We're going to go out and ask a bunch of people to help us. And one of the first questions savvy potential donors were asked, well, what did your own employees do? And so we want to be able to tell them, well, you know, we had close to 100% participation. Even if it was $2, $5, $10, that's okay. That percent, that high percent of participation is very, very important to us. We're in the process now of putting together our family campaign committee. I've asked those people from across the campus to serve on that committee. It will be chaired by Donna Sollenberger and Ben Raymer, so thank you both for your willingness to take that on and chair that committee, help us work with our employees so we can think about how we put the right foot forward with regard to raising funds for this beautiful new facility. Just in moving towards closing, mission, vision, and values, again restated. Why do we work so hard? Why do people come here every day in spite of the challenges, that long list of things to do which can never be quite completed? It's because we make a difference. We really are now improving the health of Texans and people around the world with all that we're doing. We are working together, I think, at least in the short time that I've been here, more effectively together than we have in the past to set our priorities, to accomplish our goals, to make that difference for the future. And we have really solid values. People look at the work that's being done here and they see that compassion, that integrity, that respect, the diversity that's so important to represent the people that we serve, or that represents the people that we serve. And finally, that dedication to lifelong learning. We all understand that we need to be lifelong learners. We're in that mode, and we impart that understanding to our students. So this says a lot. These things say a lot about our organization. I hope you're as proud of what they say about us and the way that we demonstrate our commitment to mission, vision, and values as I am. And again, why we do it? Look at those beautiful young faces. I get a chance to work with our students on a semi-regular basis, and it is just wonderful. You know, I look into their eyes, I listen to what they're talking about, whether it's their most recent coursework, whether it's their commitment to make a difference with their chosen career path, talking about some volunteer effort and how they can do a better job at reaching out to provide service to others. It's really inspiring. These are young people committed to make a difference, and it's our job to continue to, at times, struggle to put things together so that they're well prepared to make that difference now and in the future. Again, that's very important to me, and I hope it's important to you. We have much that we can be proud of. We've accomplished many things over the course of the past year. Again, thank you so much for your tremendous contributions. I understand it's been very difficult, and I can't promise it's going to be a whole lot easier in the future. But I think the rewards are great. We can be very proud of what we've accomplished, and I think we're going to be very proud of what we accomplish in the future. Thank you very much. What questions do you have?
Dr. Callender.
Hey, Joe.
In moving the reopening the Old Red, I'm wondering if you're going to move the Institute for the Medical Humanities back there, or will they continue to be on the far side of campus away from the rest of us?
There's a limitation to the utilization of Old Red. And it's related to that infrastructure that, help me out, Mike, if I get off track, that has to be repaired. So first of all, a lot of the space we were using previously on the first floor can no longer be used to support offices or functions. It's like everything else on the campus. If it's vulnerable, it has to be public space with elements like furniture that can be moved with the threat of a flood. There are other issues with regard to the limited air handling capacity and other infrastructure for that building. We also, because of some of these infrastructure issues and need to do some other things, have plans to use the upper floors of Old Red for something else in the future, which will limit the impact on the infrastructure. So I think I at least understand the general factors that drive the utilization of Old Red. A classroom and meeting space on the first floor, which we haven't had there in great abundance. And we'll still be able to use some of the marvelous historical elements of that building, like the amphitheater for events and for student lectures and the like, so that will be good. One of the things that Mike pointed out to me, I don't know how many of you have been by that building since it's been in the process of being repaired, but a lot of that wall board that was covering those first 4 walls has been taken down. And when they took it down, what was revealed were these beautiful brick arches that are just spectacular. So as we go forward, again, Mike helped me out, but we're going to emphasize those. We're going to put up some glass walls or transparent partitions so that you can see through that space and see those wonderful architectural elements that comprise that building. Thank you, Joe. Other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Dr. Callender, a couple of online questions were submitted.
Oh, okay. There you are, Raymond. Sorry.
First one, what are UTMB's plans for bringing inpatient psychiatry back to the island?
We're still working on those. You know, we said if we could build a new hospital, that we would work to reestablish that inpatient psychiatry area. We've not been able to support a level 1 trauma center and an inpatient psych area. So we're thinking now about how we use the existing John C. Lee Hospital, and I know, I've asked Donna to work on plans for an inpatient psych area. We're going to have one. It's just a question of what's the size, what's the location. Those things remain to be determined.
Thank you. The other question has to do with U-count. And the person says, I'm wondering what's being done to follow up on the departments with low scores. The department for which I work had many issues that need attention, but no real progress has been done. What is the expectation from an administration standpoint? I feel like the results have fallen on deaf ears. Thanks for having this platform which allows questions and feedback.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. What we've asked our managers to do is to take at least one element of the action plan that's been created in response to the survey. No matter where you work, you have an action plan, and incorporate at least one element into the plans for the year, the goals set for the year, so that we can systematically begin to address the issues that have been identified by our employees. So there should be a plan in each of the work units to address at least one of the issues that was identified as the employees as an opportunity. And that's across all areas, no matter what your capability score was. You remember we classified groups into how capable or ready they were to take on significant amounts of change associated with something the employees thought should happen. And so some groups were more ready than others. If they weren't quite as ready, it implies one sort of response or approach. If they're very capable of accommodating great change, it implies a different sort of approach. So depending on the readiness of an area, the plans are stratified, are adapted to make sure that whatever we propose actually can be accomplished. Several people have asked me about the status of the search for a new provost and dean for the School of Medicine. We formed our search committee. Dr. Cooper and Ms. Eilenberger now have been working with Dr. McKinley to narrow down the number of search firms that might be able to help us. They've narrowed it down to 2. I've looked at the capabilities of both. I think they're great. The next job is to convene that committee, charge the committee, and ask them to help us select the search firm that we think is most capable of helping us fill this opening and move forward. We expect that we'll have initial slates of candidates sometime later this fall. We'll understand basically who's available, who might be interested. We'll work to further develop that list of candidates and start thinking about seeing people after the first of the calendar year, hopefully with the opportunity to make a choice sometime in the spring, and then that person starting in those positions with the beginning of the academic year next July 1. So that's the rough time frame, and right now we're right on time. Any other questions? All right, thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you for great work. Have a great day.